Ga choda te mo yan zhu ze do so pa yan de sa ve la ma re bo che ta ya so ni ga pe me de sho ya la ka de she be ko ne che cha ju ni be pa do de ai yo ma sa ma yo me she ra ba ro ji ma ye ma ga nam ge ngo wo ni so so ra de ye she che yu te so ya ve yo la cha se lo te yo da ga de ga de pa ra ga de pa ra sama ga mo de so ho te yo da ga de pa ra ga de pa ra sama ga de mo de so ho te yo da ga de pa ra ga de pa ra sama ga mo de so ge re dong da ja ju xie wang da me de ne be jian dong de wo天帮主席大贤天将天天来有所行别你有些没有多
teach the Tameshi say you go Shanju say Shema said and several years.
I want to remind every one of ourselves to take a moment and cultivate the highest form of motivation. We call it Bodhisattva motivation or aspiration seeking enlightenment for the benefit of all other sentient beings. So with that kind of at least contrived bodhicitta aspiration, we should participate in this discourse. So where we left off in this commentary on the wisdom chapter of A Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life by Bodhisattva Mahasattva Shantideva. So last week we talked about how there is what we called innately developed a view of transitory collection or transitory collective, translated here, which in Tibetan called jigta, and which is the root cause of our being in samsara or in the state of suffering. And so when we say innately developed, it means that it exists in the minds of all sentient beings, right? It just naturally arises. And so we would like to know what it is and what is its migul or the observed object.
Chashi soba kaya drugi senyiri sungtu mela. Teda le te hena yang tende drugi senyiri zyundu mewe sherri. Te yundu hubo la tabe khansa dene ngawa nyamdu khansa ko nyamdu la jebe te. Khansa ne hubo la dene taba zang. Taba zang le. Ngawa khansa ko nyamdu la jebe te khansa ne hubo la dene taba zang. Zang le. Rāngwān rīpa mēdi, pūmbō rīrī wāda, tsōkpa dā, yuñda shāshī sō, kāyā tī tsīngirī sōngdī mēdā, pūmbō lī xēnā tī sōngdī mēwī shērū. Tidā yāng yāpsī jīwī dōli, dōi gōmbā tāra, rīchā chawā lī, jīvī sāmi shū māyī, mīmī lōng mīmī, nāngkā mī, nāngshī māyī, Mena tele hindi jibu kan she kamru ga tene jibu la ta jang 상고소 레레네 지부konsa 메바탐 저 군시베 시다 초왕 디지 메바的 강바탐이 다现나 지부 미니바 송신 대양 说的这些大满写作的看中人的说法的学学可能要大个考上尤其是考上民意就体现的松缩考上到不到咱一呢大个大民意的写的不松缩考上到不到咱们一路的写呢学现在也得人知道学女主学女主俺女把的人生这么long长吧大ro是大ro这个天气学可能学工作讲当中这民这呢民意学呗民意学呗마다 마제 bar 명그 따바장지 등 참신 좋아라 런주 메지 건사소 저번에 명정지 마저 건사가 낚시 풍부한 그 셈니 초보 샤이 상 윤대비시 디센시 니주슈나 건산조 토다 디미네 건산조 미니데 미도데 tilihende minyi ve nyamju tele tienju minyi ve nyamju gongso o de da zong zema de tenjo da dao ma chewa da tenjo jo mo de rangje me de kaza na shu kare rang tang da da zong zai ni zu sa zhou di de da zong zai ni shu na sha da mu ni ya me na sha do ma ri tenjo de gu ma ri ko to ba ta wa ni sha ji da sha go ri o de da di
those of you who have this English translation of the commentary called The Profound Reality of Interdependence, we are on page 167 and Geshe started with the subpoint 3. The caption reads, how to understand the self, that is the observed object of the innate apprehension of self. And so read the next page 168 and stopped on top of page 169. So as Geshe explained, that what we find here are the standpoint differences between Prasangika Madhyamika school, the middle Buddhist school, which is regarded as the highest Buddhist school of thought or philosophy, and the lower Buddhist schools of thought, from Saivatantika Madhyamika, the sub-school of the middle way school, all the way down to the Vaibhashikas. And so as Geshe explained, that when we deal with Kangsa, person, and Che, phenomena, for Saivatantika Madhyamikans and other Buddhist schools of thought below them, so for them, whether it is a person or phenomena, they are imputed, no doubt, but we should be able to find the imputed reality, so to speak, isn't it? In the case of a person, we have to find something and almost point at it there. There is the person. Yeah, it's imputed. The imputed thing is this, right? In the case of phenomena, the same thing. This is what phenomena is. Whereas Prasangika Madhyamikans say that all phenomena are merely designated or imputed, whether it is a person, Kangsa, whether it is phenomena or Che, right? You cannot find the imputed realities, all right? What is designated merely is unfindable according to the highest Buddhist schools of thought, Prasangikas, whereas other Buddhist schools of thought below, they differ. They said that yes, self and phenomena, person and phenomena are imputed by concept, but whatever that imputed thing is, it should be findable, right? Yeah. No.
What did you say? Because they don't come to the come. Some people say, "No, come to the come to the the cause I say you are more say, but the religion is so yes, so yes. Religion, give should some so the come to this. That is not either the Jewish cause and the sun cause Dada to the Jibber, Surat, yeah, and song, yes, that is on the that was the year, Maris. Double double Maris.
No.
But the end of that, and you don't almost so chever the fire to 10 years old. Shoot them to double double the mother, Ramon Tibetan, Joe Maris. That other daughter of the
No. So in a nutshell, what we are talking about here is this. According to Prasangikas, the highest Buddhist school of thought, Tenzin Dorjee in Tibetan, that all phenomena, meaning and everything that exists, is merely designated or merely imputed, right? Merely imputed is the instrumental claim they make. And so that said, we cannot find what that merely designated thing is. It should be unfindable. So in the case of a person, so here is a quote from Arya Nagarjuna's Precious Garland, Ratna Avali, Rinchen Tenwa, in the middle of page 168, and that reads, "A being, meaning person, is not earth, not water, nor fire, wind and space, neither consciousness nor all of them. What is a being other than this?" Right? And so here Prasangikas are saying that a person is merely designated onto his or her 5 psychosomatic aggregates or skandhas, body and mind, in other words, isn't it? So the body constitutes all these elements, water, fire, heat, space, and all of that, and then the mind is the consciousness. And so if we analyze every one of them, so we come to see that none of this is the person, right? None of this is the person, whether it's the water or fire or anything. And nor is the consciousness. The mind is the person. Okay? And so, neither every one of these aggregates or the elements of the body and mind is person, nor is the whole collection is the person, and nor do we find a person other than all of these basis of designation, right? That's the claim of Prasangika Madhyamigans, And so just like, how should I say, but whereas the other Buddhist schools of thought, Savatandika, Madhyamigans, and below, they said, yes, person is designated, but that designated reality should be findable, right, within a person's body and mind. Yeah, so that's a big difference. In the bottom line, the big difference in terms of the standpoint between Prasangikas and other Buddhist schools of thought. So in other words, Prasangika is saying that nothing exists intrinsically in and of itself, from its own side, objectively, right? Whereas other schools of thought said, well, there should be something findable, so to speak, out there, isn't it? If you look among the basis of designation, something has to be found to be said, here is the person or here is the phenomena. Okay, yeah.
What is it that come to the mind, Tambo, the Jews, Kansak, that means that there's a way, Namdu was to go, Kansak, that means there's Shushin, that's Shani, and call liars, Shendaka Shire, is a name, Kansak, that means, and they almost because the Kansak, that means, Tene tirikbati ya shukanga ma ringdesin ma ke songoro. Tet jikwa dushi ma she ya resi wa disi wa da.
So when we talk about true selflessnesses, selflessness of a person, Gangsak Dhamma in Tibetan, and selflessness of phenomena, Chögye Tangme, relatively speaking, it is easier to understand selflessness of a person as compared to the selflessness of a phenomena. So that's why in the different authentic Buddhist texts, first we see that we deal with establishing the selflessness of a person. In other words, there is no such thing as an intrinsic self of a person, according to Prasangikas, isn't it? So we could use all kinds of reasonings, and so one of the kind of very popular reasoning is called sevenfold reasoning, Namdingji Rigpa. In my footnote, we talk about the chariots and its parts, right? So that's sevenfold reasoning to establish that just like that example, a chariot in the footnote still. So a person is the same thing, is merely designated on the basis of designation, but is something not findable there, either in the parts or in the collection or apart from all of those things.
Jola, Ranji Meiji Kansaso, Joba Mingsanji, Matsimba Kansarge, Dashi, Pumurang Semni, Sobam, Shahizam, Juntavishi, Tizi Nigishuna, Kansan Joto, the Timena, Tilla, Timayina, Kansan Jo Mutabde. Tele Shendra Mini Sheru, young to Gonso, was a thousand and you were the thank you, occasion to my rodri, that conscious. Over that was the Ronju to about was the killing of Marva. Was just said, to double that was the schedule of the Ronju which was because the 10 years is. So that he kicked us on that. Dubda do this Rakba say Babdik Doshe, ya tar do that, and he tell you I got Dubda Yashun says. Dubda Oman do the Ganga tell you Dahi, Chia, top sheet of the do what is what this was that. Also, now you did hear the word. Josama, he goes at Tower, share the Orioi. Tenjua did, ya, she that take mercy, get a shady over Mare.
No,
But the curse really she that take me to the cartoon, the question, Hashisan, Quakers, Omashia, the Tenju do die the here, Shashi of the songs, but this year was.
So as Geshe explained, that among the Buddhist schools of thought or tenets, Drupta, Siddhanta, it is only the Prasangikas, Madhyamikans, the middle way school, top-notch one, who claim that all phenomena are merely designated or merely imputed, right? The Tibetan word takpa means designated, imputed, and some is the instrumental word merely, right? Label, merely designated. I don't know how much sense is coming out of English here. So no other Buddhist schools of thought claim that. Everything is merely designated, labeled, imputed. Yeah. Even the sub-school of the middle way school, Sevatantika Madhyamikans, right at the top level, they do not accept merely designated or merely labeled realities here. Because for them and other Buddhist schools of thought, that something has to be findable, and say this is what it is. This is person, this is phenomena, right? So what is that something? They might differ, right? And some of them might pinpoint a particular how should I say, a case or element or characteristics of the aggregates. They said this is what it is. Now others might say, no, it's the whole collection of the aggregates, not one of them, but it's the totality of that, right? And somebody is saying, no, it's not even the collection. We are talking about the continuity, right? The continuum of aggregates, And so this is how, right, they might come up with something to say, that is what we are talking about. The ultimate reality, it has to be findable. Okay? So that's a huge difference, even among Buddhist schools of thought between Prasangika and other schools of thought. And so as we talked about this another time also, well, if Prasangika school is the top-notch and the most authoritative kind of a standpoint, then why do we need to talk about all these other things? Why can't we just cut to the chase and go there? Well, in some ways, it doesn't work that way, generally speaking. Because there's a reason. All this other Buddhist school of thought, we had to put in a very holistic framework, isn't it? All the things mentioned in the lower Buddhist school of thought are like the rungs in the ladder or the staircase, right? That it helps us to be able to understand, right, the difference among the coarse and subtle reality notions, viewpoints, and this is how finally it all sort of helps us to culminate into the Prasangika Madhyamika school. So therefore, we don't think that other schools of thought have no contribution or they are meaningless. We can just kind of skip them and go right to the top, because as a matter of fact, these are the facilities or these stairs in the staircase, steps to be able to climb up to the Prasangika school. So what's explained in the lower schools is what we call tabshe, skillful means, right? Maybe modern word is a pedagogical how should I say, utility to be able to understand the highest, viewpoint of Prasangikas.
What that is because this doesn't show this is the Geshe Phuntsok Gyeltsen is said doesn't show the Jubale, Kashi, the dead in the Pumboni, not saying the Kashi Senshin Shevatai. The demic ball Kansa, Senji, Shime, Nangzi, Mangua, they were Kashi, Pumbonga Joda. Teacher the Mangua Kashi, Semchi with the Kasha Shima, the longer Jenak and Dodge, Pumbo, Junidam. Junidam. Tadung Kaji Simchik de Shebe Deva Lingden J. So Kunshi Kemile, Kunshi Mishibe, Sanji Pada Ribejanagis, Dozuni Shages, Yiginam Namidam. Sometimes a patient Kunshi. Namshi Senshi Joko. The Dagi Kansa Tadung Dus Tayu Sheva Sumba Kansa Rang Dokzum Senshi Shabe Rangdo Tam Senshi Shabe Namshi So Zidu Shebe So Kansa Tayu Kansa Taku Yujebe Pumbo the Dead Kansa Takbar Shejang Pumbo Kansa Ke Dakshi the Kansa in Gunyambata Pumbo Kansa in Baratabo Tasu Nyambata Kansa Dakshi Dana Kansa Min Kansa Meva Junyam Gonso Gonso She would you go in the Kaya, Kansaki, see Metropol. Masin Navi, Kaya tea, see, but 10 years of the year. 10 years of the year, go over shade or sit down, till the human tea, Minibe, Kansa, me ever Junior, Mijuda, Madame Majaba. This is, Dile Linden dishes, she made the shop shadow. Kill did simple dark, don't say Kansa Jonah Mazumba. Jonah Kansa Jonah, I want to trouble. So I said, dear, you care on legend. Nyamba Kansa, Tayu, Yishi, Toya, Mazon, shadows. But the Kansa Tazo said, Nishina, Kansa Tayu said, in the Juma is what that. 지다 저자마 가는 가사 장도도 따로 있어요. 제기 남아셔도 되지 제열이 가사랑도 따로 있어요. 이제다 이제 따로도 니야에는 가사랑도 따로 있어야 돼. 그 말이지. 제열에도 있어요. 다가이.
So Geshe read the page 167 and just stopped on top of 170 there. So as we mentioned that other Buddhist schools of thought down below, so for them, whether it's a person or phenomena, it should be findable under analysis, right? And so all the names of different schools are given there pretty much, right? And some claim, for example, that within the Vaibhasika school of thought, the lowest Buddhist school of thought, there is a particular sect they called Mahasamatha. So they can claim that all the five aggregates, right, aggregate or form all the way to the consciousness constitute what person is. And then there are other called Kashmiri Vaibhasikas and Sautrantikas. So they say that it is not the aggregates, but it's the continuity of the aggregates, right? That is what the person is. And then there are, like, say, Sevatantikas like Baba Viveka, who do not accept what we call the storehouse consciousness or Alyan Vijnan, rather that basic consciousness. So for them, what is a person? It is the mental consciousness, right? So everybody will have some different examples of what it is. So all of them agree that we have to be able to pinpoint somebody as person, right? It has to be findable under analysis. That is what we're talking about. So as Geshe explained, so there is this statement here. Maybe I should read and then translate what Geshe said. Most proponents of mind-only Chitta-Martins posit the basic consciousness as the basis of characteristics for a person. They say that they accept that a person nominally exists, but they hold that this is the case for just the concept. The Tibetan word is rangdo, concept of a person. They do not accept that a person is necessarily nominally existent. So Geshe is explaining that part. He's saying that these other Buddhist schools of thought, in a sense, they said, what is a person? So they said that is a designation, okay, just as a concept. But person has to be findable. So now person, because are critiquing them. So there is a contradiction here. You said person is a designated reality, but then it has to be findable. If something is findable, then it becomes what we call substantially existent, right? It's no more a designation or label, right? It has to be substantially existent.
망보여봐. 다음에 가지 어디 거기 따서 생기냐 이거 어디니 나대샤는 과사랑시 좀 하러 가다. 세 tenyo다 dire 가셔 뭐 따와서 되면 셔 말스. 더다 더도 좀 신다 어디 있어다.
So as Geshe explained that in other non-Buddhist schools of thought, in footnote usually we refer to many of the Hindu schools of thought, right? And also they talk about what is Purusha, person, and all of that. So it has to be something findable. So even in the non-Buddhist schools of thought, they might also say sometimes, well, body is the person, representation of what person is, or the mind is the one, not the body. So even other schools of thought are right. So they also claim that a person has to be something findable, right, under analysis. So a number of lower Buddhist school of thought have the same kind of standpoint, right? It has to be findable there, right? Now it's only Prasangikas who say, no. Everything that exists is merely designated or labeled or imputed. If something merely designated, right, it cannot be findable under ultimate analysis, and so that's the big claim and big difference there.
Rigbe jena ke se dosim ni je yigi nam shidang simsang ba pejer ge kunji nam shi ti sengir jo go o de da shoji mendar da shizang kansa se kai so yi se kai shibai se jaban se do se nangba da do shirba ya de se da di the good came in the lineage of the Harishas and the Sharasi. Kansa Pumbu Yignamshi say in Asiati or the lineage of the Sharisi. Kansa said, Jawajin Dogan Kansa Shagoris.
No.
Jawajin Dogan Sudoors. Any constant Shiva doing doors. She's the constant Shakuris, which is that.
So, as Krishna said before, that whether it is in the non-Buddhist schools of thought, footnote, mostly Hindus that we're talking about, not all other non-Buddhist schools of thought, historically in that context, and in the lower Buddhist schools of thought, so whether it's a person or phenomena, it has to be findable under ultimate analysis and investigation. So they may come with different examples of what that is, as we said before. Some of them might say body is the one, or it's the mind, or like those who accept storehouse consciousness, Alayan Vijnan, they said that's what the person is. And then those who don't accept it, like Baba Viveka, they said, well, that cannot be. So what person is the person's mental consciousness, what we call the sixth consciousness, isn't it? So as Geshe explained, that for Baba Viveka, when we talk about Purusha, Sanskrit word, the Tibetan is Kangsa, or person in English, is defined as something that continues to exist, something that goes from one life to another life, isn't it? That's the definition. So what goes from one life to another life, according to Baba Viveka, it is the mental consciousness, right? That goes from one life to another life. So they said, here is the person,
What is that? The question to me is, no, you see, it is a something about the rebellion of the good came in. But the rebellion of the lineage, so and say in Asia Shagris. The good killing is the good Shagris. That's Rama, the Kayaka Pumbu Jews and the Shagris. Consequenza, Lady think Kosa said, Da said, Jodu Dhamma, that country. Takbata, Gubata, Metaba, Shiva, the Sugda, or the Dhamma, and do not do this.
So among different schools of thought, when we talk about how many consciousnesses are there, and of course generally many schools say there are 6 consciousnesses, right? So in which case, even in the case of Chidamartins or mind-only school who follow reasoning, we call it Rigved Chendang, such as Baba Viveka, so they don't accept Alayan Vijnan or storehouse consciousness. Some school would accept 8 consciousnesses, right? That would include Alayan Vijnan, and so they said it's the mental consciousness that is the person. Okay? But then Chidamartins who do accept the storehouse consciousness. They said it's not the mental consciousness. It's the storehouse consciousness, Alyan Vijnan, right? That is the person, right? So we've all kinds of examples are presented by different schools of thought. In the case of Vaibhashikas, Chedamava, they might say, so it is the continuity of the aggregates, right? That is going to be the person. So in different schools of thought, whether Buddhist or I should say with the Buddhists, in different schools of thought, people might posit a person differently and give different example. For some, person has to be a permanent entity, isn't it? For others, it has to be impermanent one. So all of those qualities, characteristics also become part of their standpoint,
What do you call that? And the Karsa, when you kill him, oh, dear, Shashi, Kaji, Namshi, the Kaji, Sul, the Kaji, who you do the Madame. That because the symptom, Pichi, Gucci, Namshi, the thinking joke was that symptom of the Gucci killing it, the millennium, Gucci killing it, and the Gucci said, Kaza, Saint Shagris, that. Gucci said, Kaza, Namshi Trubai, remember, Gucci said, Jolly, Namshi, or that Chuba, Gucci, or this.
So as Geshe said before, even within one particular Buddhist school of thought, like Chitamatrins, one only school, there are those who follow reasonings and those who follow more of scriptural authority, isn't it? And those who follow reasonings, more like Baba Viveka, they said, there is no such thing as Alyan Vijnan or storehouse consciousness, that goes from one life to another life. So what goes from one life to another life is the mental consciousness, and that's what we call what Purusha or person is. But then there are Chitamatrins who rely more on the scriptural authority. They said, well, there is what we call storehouse consciousness. It's not the mental consciousness that goes from one life to another life, but what actually goes is the storehouse consciousness, right? So we say that is what the person is, right? So this is how, there are so many, all those examples and different viewpoints are presented.
What the Garza Deda Kansa Tayo the Sheva Yang, sung by Yang. Kansa Rang Dobazam Tayo the Udeja. Kansa in the Tayo in the Sheva Mishide. Kansaki, Senshiri Shabi Namshi saw Zir the David saw. Kansa Takton say Kansa Tayo Shevi. Music Tenjua, Janayam. Don't tell him, the dark is the she Pumbo the day, Hansa Tabor Hiejang. Pumbo Konzage, the Hirina, the Konzag Igo Nyamadam. Pumbo Konza Imba, Taso Nyamadam. Kansa the Hitina, Kansa Mena, Kansa Meva, Juranian to Gonzos. Or that the Tenjua mentioned, and that was the Nico out of the Yuzi Shiva. Kansa Kora Pumu and Yamena, and quite Ramon Yama, them and the Kansa Meva shot over us. Co user of the Pumu and Yoga, Pumata has 7,000 yoga race. In the Kansa Rando, the Tayu is at the Kansa and the Tayu Michasi over the Tenjua Kansa and Tayu Michasi Rova. Ronju mentions Kansa Tayu da Zuni Helegorova.
I don't know, Sean.
Change it to Islam. That's the was the Kansa, the Legion Shushi said, Tayu is away. That could say it's no Zui is Kansa Kansa till that Tayu Zuni Shaya.
So Geshe-la's explanation still be on page 169 there pertains to that statement. They say that they accept that a person nominally exists, but they hold that this is the case for just the concept, rangdok, of a person. They do not accept that a person is necessarily nominally existent or right by designation. So as Geshe further explains here that for the lower Buddhist schools of thought, starting from the top, Savatandika Madhyamika down below, they seems to accept that a person has, if you will, two can be translated as two dimensions or aspects, isn't it? One aspect is a designated one, imputed. That one aspect is a substantial aspect, So if you say, what is a person? Is person a designated reality? They said, yes, it is. Okay. So then say, give me an example. Then they will give an example of a consciousness or body or something which is substantially existent, isn't it? So their examples of a person are all substantially existent, but the person as a concept, rangdo, is a designation, right? So that's how they accept it, right? Well, this is why, for them, if we cannot find a real example of a person, then the person could not exist at all, which means person has to exist intrinsically. With me, and if it doesn't exist intrinsically, then the person doesn't exist. So it has to be findable. That's their really thesis there, right? Standpoint. But the Prasangikas say no. All are merely designated, merely labeled, merely imputed, isn't it? So not only as concept, right? Everything that exists, right, is merely designated, right? So so there's a big difference, isn't it? Because that statement says, according to Savatandika Madhyamika's other Buddhist schools of thought, as a concept, person is a designation. But it doesn't necessarily have to be that, right? If you say example, then almost all examples are what we call substantially existent ones. So they accept that a person has these two sort of aspects, isn't it? Imputed one and the substantive one, whereas for Prasangikas, it's all designation. There is no substantive aspect to that. No. So we are on top of page 170, and Geshe read technically the second paragraph there, which starts with therefore in the Prasangika system and so on. And so Prasangikas claim that a person, a Purusha or Kamsa is merely designated onto the collection of a person's aggregates, which constitute the basis of designation or basis of labeling, isn't it? So it's a mere designation, but you cannot find the person, among these designations, whether it's a body or whether it's a mind, or whether it's a totality of body and mind, or other than all of that, right? So it's just a designation there, so to kind of make their case, as we said, we first deal with selflessness of a person, which is refuting the self of a person, is through what we call sevenfold reasoning, Namdunji Rigpa, right? Sevenfold reasoning, and that kind of is connected now. It comes here, an example of a chariot, isn't it? Maybe modern version could be the vehicle. Car can work as well. That's just translator's footnote there. Okay, he didn't say that. So they think that a chariot has different parts, right? And we can analyze this. What is a chariot, right? Does it exist in any individual parts of the chariot, or is the collection of the whole part, or is it other than this, then we cannot find what chariot is. It's just a label, right? Designation. So like that, they said a person is merely designated onto the aggregates. And so once we understand that reasoning, right, now we can apply that logic or the reasoning to other phenomena, then we can understand the selflessness of other phenomena.
What is it? 저는 전주가 롱루가 사. 다달링이 이미가랑 가자 생길 풍부 속바도 레레와다. 풍부의 동심 봤어. 가야 문제 봐. 풍부의 때는 딱배 강 가자 타니 잠시 샤바니 티 조데 저 depend 신경이가 무서워요. 저거 해도 어느 다달링이 직담에만 줘대. 직조시 후보 이라 다달링이 무서워시 냠다. 좀에데 직조시 후보를 땐데 다담라 따이나 직조가 따와시 제베셔로스 단 직다스다 직직사 따서 가르쳐서 직조사한테 풍부셔가 다이 풍부셔도 그래서 가사 다시 풍부디 가사 뭐이나 이 가사 직다들이야 직조 따서 풍부다 따그르서 가르치되 말이스 풍부할 때 다음에 강사들이 매다다 직다스라를 말하지 그런 게 매일 그 세일들이 이 풍부 인생 들여다다 말이스 어디서 왔다.
So Geshe read again the second paragraph on page 70 already explained, and then the third paragraph there, and now explaining what's in the third paragraph there. Yeah. First, okay. In the second paragraph, Prasangikas claim that, of course, designation requires a basis of designation, right? So a person is merely designated, labeled onto its basis of designation. So the basis of designation refers to the aggregates, right? The psychosomatic aggregates or skandhas. But none of the individual aggregates or any of their parts or the whole collection or other than them is real example of a person, because person cannot be found under an analysis like that. It's just a merely label onto the collection of aggregates there. And so then a question arises in the third paragraph, right? So then what about when we talk about the jikta, a view of transitory collective, translate here, or as you said, collection is the same, right? And so that refers to the aggregate. So the aggregates have to be, right? That's the question, right? Wouldn't it be? Because it says the view of transitory collective. The jig has been translated here as transitory, right? The Tibetan word jig has the sense of disintegration or destruction, all of that. Okay. Yes, when you try to explain that, it refers to the aggregate, because the body is the one that disintegrates, isn't it? Right? It refers to that. But the Prasangikas have pointed out, you got it wrong. That the view of transitory collection, right? Of course, when we explain etymologically, it refers to the aggregates getting disintegrated, but it's not saying that aggregates constitute that self, isn't it? Actually, it's the self imputed onto these transitory collections, right? That is the observed object. Okay.
Yeah. 学呀，不过大家没把面呢，到来集中我看啥，看超市看的，是他的大个娘的到啊，娘大不到啊，娘大不了就是到，这让你娘两边，不过我就看呢，那娘大不就是到我，接受吧的也现在就同面的，这同呢。 Kona shebe se seki pumbo le tongshen di pumbo tongshen di shebe da mi ba kaba inje pumbo ni da di tama ni mende do shele sukda ma inje so sumbu pumbo da ba se kaba tangelo dene on jugba le kanjo tobe pumbo da kushi sumbo di pumbo da ne di shir tene poni shenan goba de sudama do yesun shero sheba taro tene dogna me je shirebe de bataji pumole shebe da kajin do chime rode pejigi de taji pumoni dae ma yang kala pumongao de jisu tao shebe Second, the thank you, what wrong Shiva Tashi, Pumbole Pumbola 10 Tabe, Dadam Tea, the Dashi Newton. Lense to Demane, Dotti is a Dotte Kung Digbana, saw Tombe Stombe. Shudu tene rangde shen je se beja madamba tenju cheju me juma te lungri shenje malo be se lamne doy goma sewa toma was wotin kanje da tanda khasan josu mangbo yewa diye na ya en tenju khasan josu takbe sama Dahigo me jade the Yakshu of the race. Or so that this all the thing you decaying is $10
So Gisela read completely the page 170 there. So what we just talked about is that etymologically when we explain the view of transitory collective, Jigta, of course, what really is transitory or disintegrates is refers to aggregates, but it does not mean to say that aggregates are the self. As a matter of fact, the self that's imputed onto this transitory collection of aggregates, right, is the observed, object here, so there is a whole discussion about, the whole technicality of what the word only means, kona, and that's whole explanation, and there's a citation of Chandrakirti's a supplement in the middle way towards the bottom of page 170, which reads, since our teacher said that the aggregates are the self has been asserted as aggregate. That's how a number of Buddhist schools of thought would say it. Okay. And then the answer is, yet that was to negate a self other than the aggregates, since our other sutras say that form is not a self. So relating to that, Geshe explained a little bit where, so where we talk about, in the non-Buddhist schools of thought, there is assertion that a person is other than his or her aggregates, right? Apart from the aggregate, there is a person. Maybe that's a permanent entity, all of that thing, right? So that's being refuted. That's not acceptable, right? A permanent person other than his or her aggregates apart from, right? And then also, within the Buddhist schools of thought, there's a notion that aggregates are the self or the person, isn't it? So for Prasangika, that's not acceptable either, right? The aggregates are the basis of designation, not the designated, right, person. So different sutras are quoted, they deal with or refute those two assertions here. So as Geshe explained, that the Prasangika standpoint really represents the kind of the what called the cream of everything here, that said that nothing can be posited as a personal self from the side of the aggregates of a person, isn't it? Okay? Whereas other Buddhist schools, they say aggregate is the person, right? So it's such a big difference, and Prasangika's viewpoint is upheld, is the what called the highest standpoint here.
Young kid 그때 자의 시다나 계속 송란 늘 모두 정신이 누주고 니 네바 제가 되고 다들 렌제에 된 다스야스 다 정신 다 시리기도 어디 계셔드리죠. 다는 계속 늘 모두 정신이 네바 저 되고 당번에 정신 봐 네 모두 다시지에서 통마兄弟 целый семьи 주 정송 세계해봐 리바세예봐 무시던데 계속 이해를 정신이凶猛的咱们凶猛 대지는 세계바다 정신을 해서 될라 유두의 예배에 지부 견지 사마에서 등 주정의 중원대비 저 정신 3회바다 윤재를 시식경 주제는 시식경 온숙의 신압 온숙의 신압래 남줄 타디 주바 대바 정신 사지 스파오 니가 놀라야 주부는 여도 오지만 미세에 주의 예바 대지 사시바를 제비 다니 대바 즉 도와 즉당 또 쇼에는 시요메 무 제비 시자 당지에서 정인가 그래서 주바스 기분 넘버 좋아 뭐 루키지 니요 셰라 네 시자 당시 이제 시자 당시 넘 정인을 정가버 되라 대신은 대두주 너무 신뢰 대신은 수 되다 정생어서 대만인사 해야 봐 어디를 정생어서 싫어서 강가에 수수수 배 시제 장가에 해야 그래서 정생은 시제 니시생어서 해야 봐 그래서 시제 니생어서 해야 대신은 정생은 대바다고 그랬어 어디서 와다 시제 니생어서 가르친 데지 조사야지 셴보사야지 나게도 솜 싸도 솜세 다 수거줄 자가 지금 가세 강가서 락바시 강바시 형 꼽다 안는 dom장 못돼 내장 뭔가다 제등 좋은 도지 랑 셴보니 도지 나 집이 희바다 상만 예시 배버데 영아빠라 랑신의 남줄 이미지 무시여데 러시 코나임베 나주 님바도 주 니가 이번에 쳔보던 나제데 대성가 뒤노 남주 코나임바네 안부주리다 중앙 나디 주두고 니가 매바니 지부다와 다시리 지부다와 지스고라 데데가스 중앙주 가야만 있듯이 주두고 니가 매바니 지부 대다리형 안주 나고 중래 따라시 남바 제메디 지부라시만 나지면 해서 라시다 주통지 남주의 지부통지 지부니 힘에 고이나 남주는 시바보 멤버 마제바 따바 내도를 롱제베 사업보다 연대숨 매바 로아탐지 차바 샤베비 지고 통마 매바니 타미 생이진지 내도 좋은 레소 시바보 마제베 따바 샤베비 지고 셈 매베 유코나 누지 탐지를 잡고 요네 좀 차야마때 제주 종대든데도 쳔번 네 쳔남주 쳔번 쳔남주 유지 속예당 나그 집을 속 속예 샤와 메롱원이었다고 요데도 로시고 데라 로 변보 로 변보 잡아서 시바다 다지 시바다 다지 것을 성적이 소다 제주 공사 강게 제 집을 유라 라 조데 시바는 제바는 조남주는 제바샤라 대자라 힘내 쉐모시 대 나제레 나제 숨 여발레 나만 좋아진 나제레 대서 나체 제 대달레 중화시 나제데 닝급쟁이 나제레 아무 쭉쭉다 문바지 나제는 나제 현이지 제 죽시임을 되도서 대달 제주는 온죽 나고 줄이 셰도 대다 거기 저집에 시전지 생하시 대 게임은 유리니가 제주 게임은 주면 지바요시 대다 셰니 거기 대다 지부터 대래 사번 미바세 아니 시바보 많이 봐
안데스케 기부 건다게 기부도 갈 손배
라
기부 갈자르스
지부스는 가사스 거다
디상에 데레스
아 가사
어
무슨 가사사 정말
라라라
레제 때 지금 지부스 거로
라라
어 대다 딱 봐세
노소
근데 레가도 레게스 이거서 지조사티 레고스
하노
어떻게 지부배 가리고는 대바람도 가리고는 거기 넣니 근데 지부스 거고도 코나 코도야 저선 근데 그 지조사티 지부도 거는 막 그거다 나대서 시작했다.
노소
다 거기서 나 되게 나거든. 자 지조도 윤주조도 하고니. 제주신들은 지조도 못 찾아오시니 그 남주 마주시 삼샤도
노소
그 남주 마주는 그 윤주 체조도 지도 타와서 조리.
노소
어디도 거기 잡아도 다 지조도 저거리.
알아 노소
어제
노소 So Geshe read basically 2 pages, page 171, and that starts with assertions of the Samkhayas or Tangzheba in Tibetan, and then almost page 172 there. So now Geshe started to explain that now we are dealing with Samkhayas or non-Buddhist schools of thought, right? So there's a bit of kind of historical background given because they follow their teacher who's called Serja or Kapila, right? So they are known by 2 names, they are called Kapilas, followers of this sage Kapil, or they are also called Samkhayas, which has to do with literally enumerators, right? So at the So the core of their philosophical assertion that, in terms of objects of knowledge, so they belong to 25 categories or list of 25, right? So they enumerate objects of knowledge into 25 list of. So that's their laundry list there, 25 items there. And so why they present that is, some Kayas or the Kapilas, they feel that there has to be a basis for the functionality of karma and outcomes, isn't it? Right? Law of karma and outcome, right? It must, based on something, right? Because they do exist and function, isn't it? So this is where, they talk about this list of 25 things which they might categorize into causes and effects, right? Cause and effect. And so there are some things which are causes but not effects, some things which are effect, not causes, and some things which are both, kind of thing, right? So that's going to be their presentation. So among them, if we say, so who is kind of responsible and doing all of the actions is called kibu, purusha, right? Person. But the way they kind of define a person is called da shirigi kibu. I used to translate as kind of intellectual personality or something, but here now they translate as more like a spirit, right? So that is a permanent. A person, right, that's permanent, okay? And the person's job is just to have fun, enjoy your life. This person is enjoyer of things, doesn't do anything himself, right, create, okay? So it is the chiso, the primal basis here, right? Sometimes we call the primary principle. Sometimes we translate it as, but here it's called primal basis. So who creates all kinds of things, isn't it? These are called namgyur. Namgyur can be translated as manifestations or transformations here, translated, right? So it is the primal basis that creates whatever the person wants to enjoy, right? That permanent spirit person wants to enjoy, then the primal basis will provide it. Hey, here, that's what you're thinking, your wish is fulfilled. I give that to you, isn't it? So the primal basis or chiso is considered the root of samsara, okay, according to their kind of explanation. So how can one get liberation or moksha in their sense, right? If that is the, well, they said, so there will be a time that a person started to see through this kind of a primal basis that he is the one, like pulling all the tricks and everything else here, right? And then when you see that, the primal basis kind of feels embarrassed, right? Oh my gosh, now he figured out all my secrets here, kind of thing. And then stops creating all these creations or manifestations, transformations, right? So when the primal basis stops creating all those things, they said this is when you attain the moksha, which is the liberation, right? According to their school of thought, okay?
What is it? The
No, so. So comparatively speaking, kind of thing here, that in our Buddhist kind of discourses, what we say is that the root of samsara is avidya or ignorance, isn't it? Okay? And so due to ignorance, we create all kinds of karmas, karmic actions. And so these karmic actions are going to produce their good and bad results, so which also include happiness and suffering and all of those things, right? So now if we understand selflessness or realize that, then we're able to counteract, uproot ignorance. When that happens, then now we are able to free ourselves from samsara, right? That's our claim and storyline, isn't it? It started with ignorance, right? And then karma keep on producing good and bad, all the things we experience. So when this whole cycle stops is when we realize selflessness, then the ignorance is knocked off, and now, right, that we are able to free ourselves from the suffering of samsara. So that's a Buddhist thesis, and if I'm allowed to call it storyline, Geshe didn't say storyline, by the way, okay. So the Samkhya storyline or the thesis, the Kapilas, is this, that the root of our being in samsara is the primal basis, the chiso, right? that principle. Yeah, because he's so kind of churning out all this samsaric stuff, because he has the ability to do that, And so because of that we as persons, Kibu, right, so we get caught up in all these creations and we just kind of have to enjoy. We don't do anything else. But then through cultivating some meditative absorption, samadhi, that you reach a stage where you're able to see through all these creations of the primal basis. So at that point, the primal basis feels embarrassed. Okay, now he found my secret, right? Then stops creating all this samsaric stuff, right? So what is left at the end is just the person alone, right? The person which is the spirit, and that's the permanent one. So it is at that point you attain the moksha. Now you are free, right? So these are different kind of, right? I mean, the many non-Buddhist schools of thought, meaning in my footnote to the Hindus, they do present, right, realities and the path and leading to their goal, right? So they have a basis and the path and the outcome there, right? So we use some kayas or kapilas as an example here.
오다 정신을 그래서 데리다 코아 코들이 타와토야로 남샤로 지르시기 있어거다. 다 대샤고 있어리. 근데 저에는 나오시.
So that is how at least this prominent non-Buddhist schools of thought, of course, Hindu thought here. Geshe didn't say that. I just said that. This is their claim, and this is how they present their what called the reality and the path and the liberation there. So because of the time, we'll stop there, and now we will welcome your questions. First, we'll go to our Dharma friends in the cyberspace, and then come back here.
Here's the question. It's just, it says, can you explain the difference between the storehouse consciousness that the lower schools teach that goes from one life to the next, and then the prasangika view that only karmic seeds are going from one life to the next?
Okay, can you repeat one more time?
Sure. Basically, if Geshe can explain the difference between the storehouse consciousness that goes from one life to the next versus the prasangika view of the karmic seeds going from one life to the next. There could be a more concise explanation.
Sure, thank you. Chajethone kandishual rowagen. Tanda kunshi döngengi rowagen. Kunshi döngen jo rowa. Kunshi döngen degi kyawa chikne dogen de kunshi rela rowagen. Chezeta kanje kyawa chikne chik rowa kangsa shade kangsa ga kunshi resla go rowagen. Cheza di dan tanda pena uma tenjuba ge rowagen. Kyawa chikla chik dogen degi pa ki kyawa de sharo nasa. Konja khari shagres da kyawa di kunshi khelengi yo marwagen. Cheda ne khasa di uma tenjuba ge kyawa chikla chik dogen de ka legi sameres do de go la go ra khalla go re sa.
Dogen da de ngazam de do da.
No.
생기들의 주자원의 인가에 생기하고 말아.
No, sir.
그래서 내가 좀 그런 두고 그러지 못다.
No, sir. So Geshe says, according to the Prasangikas, right, that one goes from one life to another life is, unlike the other Buddhist schools of thought down below, including the storehouse consciousness, the philosophers, they said it is just a ngazam, means mere sense of I, right? The merely designated I that goes from one life to another life. Now, if you say, give me an example, they say it's unfindable. You cannot give you an example of that, right? It's the merely designated I that goes from one life to another life. Next question.
Hi. We talked quite a bit about the findability of something substantial. We talked about the findability of it's coming and going. The substantial part kind of got my attention.
Okay.
So we talked quite a bit about that. And then I thought about, those lower schools also say that they don't accept a substantial and self-sufficient self. But then they go back and they look for something substantial. And then I was looking at the self-sufficient part, which self-sufficient I think refers more to like no causes and conditions. It's self-sufficient, it doesn't need causes and conditions, which seems to me is more related to intrinsicness.
Okay.
So those lower schools are saying they don't accept that, but then they go back and break it up and then they accept them separately. It seems like that. Can you ask Geshe-la?
Sure. They can share the did again that and the again and so Nangbe Dubda Oma Zoga de Julia, the Kansa Shak de Delia, Target charge the J charge your son, Roba. Target de Rangdo de Takbare Madarwa, Kupekanga in the J Shade Roage. See, dig like Monatonara Chunsa, and Namju contradict Ranga Tube J Roage, Tombe Kansa Dugu Marbesa Roage. Ranga Tube J Tombe Kansa Roage. Rangja Tobe J Sidu Kala, and J K Malanga says Roage. Moransamba Rangja Toba said, Juda Ken la Madebe Rangja Roage. That J the Kelang Meza, and Yantanda de Kansa Senja said the J showing with the deep or Segas Roage, Sessions Narunas, Rangja Tobe J Kele, Kasa Kemane, Yam Kansa essential J showing with the Karasa.
The Kansa Tago had Kansa Rando, Tago Shagama, Kansa say it out the Tago Shagoma.
Oh, did it so long. Did some Mardage. Get Tiwadi Mardage, Tiwadi Sigod again. Conse Kansa, Sinsi Shai de Kalaya, that Sheva second Su regular what J showing or Wage. Shago Wage. That in a Ranga Tube J Tongue Kansa or Wage. Then you could get a tongue or Wage. Ranga Tube J Kasa Tongbak Dugu or Wage. Young Kansa Sinsi said the J showing the was again. So that the king that gave it Sego or Yaman the dishes.
This shows a go card. Tada Kansa Tago Kansa Rando Shagoro.
But again, J Shago, Tawi Kizamada. J Kisha, the Tawi
Zero said Kansa could the Hishan Shagorta.
or Ditcher Wage. The Ranga to J Kansa Yoma Lady,
Rangers was zero Marsad, Kansa Rando, the Ranjas or Tungal Tabal Madiba, Ranja Yomaris.
and J cherry.
That Kansa Zero said, because the Kotaku Tatu Namshin, Tatu said, you that zero.
Again, demet and the again send you to it. Kate should just give it. Yes, I was shooting.
Ah,
가사 란자 도베 지역 killing on was. 아니 야 가사 지역 killing 거 되는 겨울에 생겨서 로하게.
Says your Mars Kansa Tago said Kansa Rando is Tada Zero can the Rando Mar Daki Kansa.
No, we understood your question. Geshe is not just getting what we're saying here, right? Or we are both right. Again, tired that J Gelda Shigo Mardage. Again, they said the Jungo Wage. Kansa Rando tired, change J say they did give a Shigo Mardage. What it was the Karsana, Ranga to be J Kansaji, Yomaris killing or Wage. Rovage, Ranga to be J Kansa Yomalarova. Young Kansa Sinji says the Yazi Shang or Wage. Says I would need Dela give us to
Ranja Kansa Yomar says Kansa Rando this yes.
Ranga to be J Kansa Yomar.
Oh, Ranja Zero Yomar said Kansa Rando. That Kansa Zero has Kansa say is a Shagoro. Kansa when Shosa. Kansa is the Tahu is that could Zuma Patse, saw to took the year at the same cigarette.
Okay, no.
I said that don't think it's Ganga. That was zero. Rakpat of Shika. Patato Niki Gagar Shagoro.
So I think this is what where we talk about there is no self-sufficient Rangatova substantially existing person, right? We can't find that contradiction there, right? In one way they don't accept it. Then there's every example they gave is substantial existence, right? That's what we're saying, but Geshe still explaining the same things. But what he's saying is that position, there is no self-sufficient, substantial existing person is again as a concept, right? The Rangdo, right? Not right. Whereas this one, right? They said there's two aspects, right? There is the concept aspect, which is the designated part, but the actual example aspect, which is the substantive part. So he said there's no contradiction between the two. The other one is the nominal level, not at substantial. Self-sufficient and substantial existent person is a nominal level concept. And so, but you know, so there's no contradiction, he said. Yeah.
From their own position.
Huh?
From their own position.
Yeah, from their own position.
From their
he said,
own
yeah.
position. Yes, that's one way of looking at it.
Right,
I
right.
accept what Geshe
Okay,
said.
okay.
I accept that.
Okay.
And
Mhm.
but there's like, we're still grasping at something substantial, and we're still grasping at something. So we're just doing it separately, it seems to
okay,
me.
right, right,
It seems that we're just doing it, we're still doing, we're just like now, we're breaking it apart, and we're still in a sneaky way, still doing this one and still doing that one. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying. Morangi di chendi ke dwa ge rangja thebe je ge and kangsa ji yomar sidu kala rangja thebe je le shenbe shenba je rwa ge di ke khapde de la je kangsa yomar la rwa ge ta di ba je di sheba de se du go rwa ge ta lagwe yang kangsa ke chinyi sha sidu kala yang je ji sha ina yang de le shenba ji ma rwa se go ge chin shi sha de
거기서 랑자트가 제 메시아한테 가서 랑도 쓰고 그래.
no
근데 지난주에 가서 랑도 쓰고 맥 통화용 게 계좌시야기도 들들 가서 랑도 쓰고 다.
no so
다 지난 세계 있는 게 가서 하고 뭐라 들하고 뭐라
I know.
들 지유서라 니셔라.
Right. So Geshe is saying, you know, that if you say example, you heard Geshe say your name, right? If you say Rena, right? So there's the two aspects, right? Rena is a nominal name or designation, isn't it? And then for them, what is real Rena? So some of you might say it's your body or your mind, right? Something we don't see, the mind is, isn't it? So, so if mind is one, what we're seeing Rena, that is not the example of a Rena, you know? So Rena as a concept or nominal existence, and the Rena as example, right? So that's how they posit it. Yeah. Anyway, Rosanla, yeah.
I was thinking about memory, not necessarily the memories of this life, but like if you memorize a text, is that the mere eye that memorizes?
Okay. 내 간지学的是我给俺们就论证这个有话个，别家论证这个有话个，别家论证前头他落了眼这个有话，安尼第落了眼这个的，安尼가서 그러다 뒤로 와게 가서 그러다 나잠 다가라 레디오 왜사.
나
别家论证前俺心되게 된 나잠기 강사 다가라 레디오 왜사.
신경 쓰고 그래.
배저 논제 책에 강사 주요고로 와게 강사들 나잠에 강사 다가라 레디오 왜사.
어디 가서야지 다 뒤시워야지.
나잠대로 와게. That's right. Yeah, from Prasangika point of view. Yeah, it is the mere eye, right? Yeah.
So if you realize emptiness, does the memory go away?
No, no. And 동반이 또 인바이나 아니 디 논제 제시할 때 강가 매우 차주고 그래서 체주고 그래서 동이 동나.
돈이 또 어디 시대우지 세를 욕을 매우 자주 말아.
No, as a matter of fact, when you realize emptiness, right, what you have memorized, it should become even much more clearer. Not that you lose it, you know. Yeah. Yes. Now, yeah. Oh, you have a question? No, go ahead.
No, go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, we have time.
So
We have time.
so if I'm understanding right, so it's this mere eye, not an intrinsic eye, but it's this mere eye that does go from one life to
Another
the
life,
next.
right?
Isn't that in itself, if it goes from one life to the next, isn't that in itself findable?
Tangible?
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess tangible, findable. I mean, it's something's going on, passing on.
Right.
So it's not like it's not
I don't think
findable.
it's tangible. We cannot
Tangible.
pinpoint it. It's not tangible, right? Tangible is something you can grab with something, right? Hey, where's the pen? I lost my pen here, right?
So
It's a
the
mere eye sense of it goes from one life to another life. It's not a tangible. Yeah.
yeah. So the lower schools though say
Yes, it's not a mere eye. For them, it is right. Yeah.
something.
Yes, it has to be like we say pinpointed. Yeah, that's a consciousness. There is
yeah.
the storehouse consciousness. Different views, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yes, there's a thing.
That's right. The Prasangika is more like sort of a, for I think what we find is really very conceptual at a level, isn't it? It's very abstract, so to say. So that's why we have difficulty understanding, right? If we say what is a person, it's a mere eye. They can't give an example of that. They can say, oh, you know what, look at your body, right? They can't. It's abstract. Very. Maybe that's what, right? Yeah, and then of course there is that involved with that, right? So it's so abstract, right? But yet it carries the imprints and it is responsible for so many things, right? Yeah.
So yeah, so I think that's why it's almost like then there's something, right?
Yeah, there's
so
something.
there's
Yeah.
something,
They don't deny, yeah, there's a
Right.
person, yeah. But the something is a mere designation.
right? Okay.
알아 혼자 디 강가 차고 그냥 단다 tenjubagi ngazam sharoage ngazam la dichi yo gongane chidose gewaching drodigo roage ani yoda yora la mel go yomar roage tenjubag roage ina tadi lol chakabu chagdo wage ko ngazena tokbe tokcharaji mado jugususa yomar wa tadi 주다 오마 이만 가르 처려 수고들에 교련 내고들에 교련 세미를 라지 lapsa yorwa tadi tenjubag la de ngazam zrela da chenshi shalam de ngazam resla mado ji 때문에 거 똑배 똑자를 쳐들 갈 로라 차약하고도 하게
그래서 또뭐 당선 세 되다 누구서 거기 강바들에 가서 가자 인생의 노제 용거로 다 가자 연의 여러 연의 여지 또뭐 당선 세우다
This is why I mean person gave a thing right they said well there is such a thing as a person right purusha yeah but then you cannot say like wow what is a purusha it's your head it's your nose right then there get so many issues come up isn't it so they said there is a person that exists so if you say what is it you can't say it's the body it's the part of the body it's the mind it's not the collection we cannot right but yet it exists so therefore they said it's a mere designation right that's how they come to right
well, it was said that the mere eye is the one that transmigrates or
Yes.
goes. But not all mere eyes do. I mean, the mere eye of this life will not be the same as the mere eye of next life. So, that's why that relates to his
relating
question.
to that right okay
Yeah.
Okay
The imprint is not the mere eye. Okay, all right.
no, right.
So that's the objection. If you could translate question as well as the objection.
right 다 고랑이 디스고래 가르소 ngazam se chero bage ngazam se dele kochi namra mangba shai medosa roage kewa dil dawa yube ngazam se roage ya kewa shuma dawa yube ngazam shai yor baso roage sedu kal ko ngazam dele kochi nangse ya sedu kal di chasung bur roage kewa de yube ngazam de da ko di tinggu jero labda masa kewa shuma dumar sam gi jero roage ya shuma ngazam jero roage sesa dini yewa chedu kal khagor roage 근데 로살라게라는 저 가슴 세디 디레라 그런 간서 이나 레기 박자대로 하게 그래서 네 말에 레기 박자 용셔요 말을 그러게 다 이거 그 레스 우즈지 거라고니 진짜 되게 디게 디시전 이만 하나 제가 될 때 셔베 가슴 직샤로 하게 다 되네 제가 디 저도 디 가슴 디 가르다 가도 거 하고 그러게 다디 아니 제가 흉말 되면 가슴 용 거로 하게
제가 늘 다다 당장 가서 부모가 다 해고 강사들 세니 개발시에 가서로
나라 다시 한번 디데 저도 거보다
다들 실루서 거기 세니 개발시에 가서 저도 거 다기 강사 매래사로
라데
다고 다기 사마자 그러요
알레
여자 시마 그 겨레 그러
라로와
어디 여 다기 될다 여 보고 될다 차그러 그 다기 제시 주고로다
이네 엔디 버르델이야 가서 바로 추고요 말밖에 저와 딜 개발체베 다디 벤 가시니 로메라당 되게 가라 디 다디 대가를 가버로 밖에 이네 다 가서 가라
실루서 배삼에 레도 말봐 그 제르고 시바마 계시 가다 뭐지 잠이 비게 도마샤나 이 잠이 레도 말봐
알레 이네 디다 저 디버 투시하고 밖에 벤데 나 풍부데 따지 되게 가라 세대 개발체베 다디 다 풍부데 따바냐면
네 사주 쇼쇼 다 매버세 다
모든 시
풍부 따와 레도로
로
세심에 풍부 따와 레도로
알레 파투 geb르고 로
파티죠
No, I was trying to ask, right? Because what you said is, right, the pertinent one. Where when we talk about even mere eye, right, there is what we call mere eye, which is kind of based on this life characteristics, right, we call particularly. And so that mere eye, right, once we die, our body is disposed of, that mere eye just stops here. But then the continuity of that mere eye is going to, right, into the next life, and that will be new label, designation, whatever. That's what Geshe is explaining.
Renee, just to follow up on that. So if this is transitory, the mere eye, it was said that there was a question here that why do they, the fact that the aggregates are what is transitory and collective, and yet the observed object of the mere eye, of the view of the transitory collection is the mere eye.
Right.
So does that mean that, can we say, so the explanation is that because the mere eye is imputed on the based on the transitory collection, so we can say that the view of transitory collection observes the mere eye. That's the way it's explained here.
Okay.
Now, can we say that the view of the transitory collection observes the mere eye, which itself, not only the aggregates, but the mere eye itself, is transitory and a collection?
Okay. Sure. Yeah, I understood. Thank you. 코나간이 쉬어야지 디 쉬고르게 다당간지 직다르와게 직다세 직소세디 풍보라 고 직월스카르스라와게 제자 아니 디세네 풍보디 다게 천시 연구 엄마를 간서는 가사다 직소 풍보라 때네 답에 다들래라버와게 제도 아니 단다 직다디 풍보라 때에 다들래 미대요 버스고르와게 로와게 로와 저와 당부들어와게 아니 데이터 저와 니마다 가르스고서나 근데 다셔베 다 다가라 아니 양 직소 따와 차도요 말스 거게
다데 직소 따 말 다데 직소 따 유디로와
알레 고란 직소 차고요 맞다 고란 직소 차시는
직소 따 차고 말
알레 고란 직소 차거를 차고 말게
나
고란 직소 차거를 차고 따오면에
직소데 차셔서 메다 봐라 직소스 직소 소스 거들
yeah, that's good. Yeah. So Geshe is saying yes, that's right. I mean the view of transitory collective, it is right, kind of a focus on what it observes is that self imputed onto the transitory collection of aggregates, isn't it? Okay. So in that sense, the self is the focus of the object, and the view is the perceiver, kind of focus on that, right? Now, so your question is the self itself a transitory collective, right? Yes, that part is right, not the view. It's not a transitory view. It is transitory, that's right. Yes, we can say. That's right. Yeah, mere eye can be, yes. That's right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's what it is, yeah. Go ahead, Renee.
Thank you for your teaching, Geshe. And then when we die and we take rebirth, what's the new I made of?
Okay. 먼저 신의 개와 사와실 낸디오 강리야 안에 다 가서다 나sam게 다 사와디 그 규자 가려서 해야죠. 그래서 그러게.
나
먼저 신의 개와실 낸기로 와게. 개와len서는 개와 사와달이야다 다 가서 나삼 사와시어로 와. 가서 사와디 규자 가려서 그래서 그러다디. 규자다 마서는 가려서요. 그래서 그랬어요.
직자데 네 다다 가지 마 윤수 봐 티셔지로 단다 용게디 가다 유디 해주로
얘네 다고 규제도 마스 딱사라데 그다고 낚시디 쳄사로 하게 낚시디 쳄쪽으로 보다 네 규제 대책으로 생각해 낚시 쳄사와디 마sam사
낚시데 갖고 계시게 시도 그거 낚시 사와서 요르고로 하고
네 저다 나다 가서로다 마sam사와디 규제를 이제 제일 진리고 있는 낚시 사와디
사와디 규제를 말다 유니를 또 그러면서 무엇을 말아
Now, Geshe says this, I mean, when we die and we're reborn, so maybe we have another new body or new whatever, right? So that is the basis of designation upon which that mere I is designated on. But then we but also acknowledge there's a continuity of mere I from this life to that next life. That's what I'm saying. So we cannot say what it's made of. It's a mere designation,
The mere I comprise. I know not the same body.
It is just it's a label.
It's a label, but
yeah, it's a label.
It's not a collection of the karma.
No. Then we end up with finding something, right? It's just a label, right? Yeah.
Thank you.
Even I checked. Is the new body and mind going to be the material? He said no. That can't. It's a basis of designation. Right. Yes. Let's go with Rosala.
Maybe changing the subject. When I was in high school in the science class, we had these crystals. In science class in high school, we had these crystals in a heat-resistant glass.
Yes.
And we put a flame under them, and they all melted to liquid. Then we took the flame away, cooled them off, all came back to the same shape.
Yes. So by that, what you're trying to say?
This is what happens between lives. It
Oh,
dissolves and it recrystallizes.
right, sure, okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Quran ida the pesha ro ke pe de kharshi shagu la ba de ton da me pesha de ne ro wa ko de song ma la bra do de kan la ya chin ri jin de na ro wa ke kon so she yo ro wa ke she de de me gi khar so ko re da ko chod ma je de ko she shu ru ro wa ke she shu ne ko nga zo ina da khar so ko re de ro wa ke leng rang shin ro chu rang shin ro cha de yo ro wa 다양 가로진 거 샤샤도 거 셰 독도 랑자 차용도 서로게 다게 독도로와 매단을 거 슈로와 야 샤샤도 이제 그 디스 이제 개와 진의 직도스로 디네로 삼단데 도와게 단다데 지요로다 그 디삼되면서 배나가도 단다 지요로다 시도라 풍고디 짜고 그러와게 제대다 개와 성마들라 가스 삼지 요로와게 거 디네를 텐데서로 개와 진 튀경하는 가서 셰고디 되게 슈르도 되고 셰고 매바 차요 말와 야고 랑자는데 독도 차요 거로게
마다 대신에 자 저다 그 세르 슈 지나게 야 독도 차는지 그래서 뭐 유도 세코로 찍으러 와도 저 찍고
So Geshe says, what he can see with your example is that that's what he implying. There's some continuity, right? In that example, first it is already a solid, then we put a fire, it melts, right? But then after a while, it cool down again, it becomes rock solid. So there's a continuity, isn't it? Right, shape, and then it right. So he said there's some continuity between these two right processes. So like that, yes, we can say between the life there's something continuous, right?
So I guess so this mere eye, especially when when one passes on and goes into the next, I guess the mere eye itself is dependent arising, right? Is that what it is, right? So in the transition, I guess for me, just very technical, I guess. What is the mere eye depending on at that time? I guess what is it that
To go from one
go
to
one
the
life
next.
to the next, really.
Yeah. Quran can do this show again. Ngasam say takara ko ten chume ten chu ro sa ro ge. Jaza an Quran samada kewa ching ne chin ro de ko chik ten ro go ro wa an khare le ten ro de go re sangasam say de gen.
마다 계속 돼 계속 가만 가지 심어 랭거라
ko ten ro but the Quran did change the go ge but ngasam say the kewa ching ne chik ro ko chik ten ro go ko ten sa che mena ro ge khare ro de go sam change de go ge. Ko ten se ro we.
Then 코 윤주시 봐 때문에 코파 사면도 시원해 좋아하시면 해요 말아.
So Geshe saying, the mere sense of that I is like we think in terms of a continuum, isn't it? So this continuum consists of many moments consecutively, isn't it? So there should not be any kind of disruption here. Then nothing will go back, right? So all this changing, disintegrating moment change is happening, but there's still something continuous, isn't it? So that's what it is. That mere I from this life to the next life, there is no disruption here. That's right. A lot of changes are happening, but at the same time, there is something that keeps on continuing. That's what it is. Yeah. Okay. So let's do the last question here.
It's not. I was just
observation.
maybe this could help. There's the appearance of this flesh and blood body,
Right.
and we call that the mere eye.
Right.
Then we die. Then there's the appearance of the bardo body, and then that one becomes the mere eye. We call that the mere eye. And then you take another birth, which is basically from the blood of your new mama and
Right,
the
then we
white
call
drop
that-
of your new papa, and then you bring in your subtle mind, and now you can designate the mere eye on that combination. So the combination is shifting because different things are appearing.
Right. It's a
But
whole
it's just,
process.
but
that
it's just a bunch of
continues, right?
appearances that are shifting, and the mere eye gets imputed on. It's not the same mere eye. It's another mere eye and another mere eye and another mere eye.
Okay. Yeah, I'll report that to Geshe, and then I'll yield for him for the prayer requests and other things. Did I was Quran ya the Mopesha go again. Then Kela machine was a long lang to the Yakaji Kian Lagmi to Karasan, Yoroshirogi. A more pitch shot the color again. Kasan the great Kawachin can do a lot of but Tandang as a Kawa Diki Kasora, Kejo de Chebe, Masam Gioro again. In a daddy mashi, the Pungo the Tadu and a Tadu again. In Mercer, they call Pardon, Nagabra, Padu Lucia, the other time Masam Giorella. Then a part of the gas that Joshua Ame, Copan and Kiego and a young Luis Abaslinga, the other time Master, the Motu de Oreso, that did Takati. Yeah. Kudos to you, Rena. There you go. Okay. Geshe.
A couple of reminders before we read the prayer request today. This upcoming Saturday, April 25th, is our annual Yamataka self-initiation. And this self-initiation is held in commemoration of His Holiness the Dalai Lama bestowing the Yamataka initiation at the request of GSTDL in 2012. And so again, this upcoming Saturday from 2 p.m. To 6 p.m. For those of you who are qualified and who are interested but unable to make it in person, please know that this is also available online, and we would recommend and encourage you to follow the directions on our webpage or event page on the website to access the online link. So that was the first reminder, and then the second one is the following day, next Sunday, is a talk day. So after teachings, we'll be offering talk. Shantideva Thomas Patrick Smith tha Brahmadini as a Brahmadini Naiksa Huniniga cancer ki Tronsha Nija Hunisha Tungme tha the ne Shantideva Le Ngok Chang tha and Vu Kaza Vu Ti Quesarba Korani Shadu Tungme Naranas. Then Tsedan Demba Sweden Lashube John Ching Cancer Nebachiani Pejin Tanda Khazus Demade Sutigio Maris Okunchi the Tungme Naranas. Prayer requests today for those who have recently passed include prayers for Thomas Patrick Smith and Pramodini Naik, both who have recently passed from cancer. Prayers also requested for Le Ngao Chang and Vu Ti Kwe, also formerly deceased. May the individuals whose names I just read, along with all of those who have recently passed, be free of all suffering and purified of all negative karma accumulated since beginningless times. May they be reborn with all precious freedoms and endowments. May they meet the Dharma and a qualified guru and quickly achieve liberation and enlightenment. Prayers for those who are still with us include prayers requested for John Ching, who is suffering from brain cancer and who is currently in hospice care. So please keep John and all sentient beings in your prayers and dedications. May they be free from all obstacles, hardship, and negative karma. May their wishes and prayers be fulfilled. May they be guided by the blessings of the three jewels, and may they experience everlasting peace and happiness.
Thank you, Geshe. So we will do the Avalokiteshvara prayer for the deceased, and then healing Buddha prayer for the living. Chadong Golun Gyuben Gyabo Don, Jendong Gyawa Sangbe, Sangye Don, Kala Kande, Dela Dedem, Jumba Jenre Sil, Changze Lo Omani Peme Hung. Omane Beme Hungri, Gawadi, Nyododa, Jere Sewan, Rubjone, Dowa Jina, Tia Salam, Gaba, Show, Toje, Kranla, Yombe, Jomden, Tenzan Tebe, Nindu, Dungese, Duzon, SS, Bindu Yaye, Chanze Lo Om Namo, Bhagavade, Begaze Guru Benduya, Tabaranzaya, Tadagadaya, Arahade, Samya Sambudaya, Teeta, Om Begaze, Maham, Begaze, Bega, Ranza Samugade, Soha, Teeta, Om Begaze, Maham, Begaze, Bega. 대담 배가전 배가전 만배가전 배가전 사몽가네 소와 겨와네 뇨도다 멤베 예고 로조네 로와 지장 대여살람 그바쇼 page 3 로드 자즈외론 배가데 계산봉외 제도 멤버신 대방신라 왕도 예체외 당년 초군 초 서원대 마왕담의 군견 동왕대 강대 종소 년다 세자 장근 야와 예와 yap세지 당송 된세 마외 시바 된진 제외 인공 제외진 세제 내군 창조 된류 롱도 담제 배배 배연진 뇌자 야주 권도 샷 대상 공다 제주 좀배제 용조 유래 도배 냐게 롱리 대연 너베 배된바 도된 강리 다보 샤된 동나 공면 제바 남다 군 된당 로베 편대 주 근도 주면 제배 텐대제 계산 되제 된도 샤된 지저라면 도제 모랑다 계산 되제 된당 상면 소송 도도 제다면 등글론도 쇼 랑장신계 공부 제바면 조도 남제 개윤 조마 조조 제예 하저 담제 다대 미시 초기 모조조 토대 제당 로상 교보 시로 대번 배윤전 다들 되자 경괴 신예 양대 인제 홍보 소바데 지대 숨근 장나 배매 대변사와 소소 타바이 남다 수리 양다 랑 로상 연대 배도 샤대쇼 최종 자제 논제 양배 삼조 남제 상진 준비제 공종 실라 송주 대배랑하다 정보 샤대쇼 체배 동화 고원 보조대 준비 레랑 시유 bom다 준비 된된 내세 당장 계주 신년 정보 샤대쇼 개배 랑도 고세 제다제 준비 차라 내조 랑서 상변 대제 레고 예시 좀된 신년 정보 샤 태상 로란 자외 된대제 민족 대저 상면 시제바 라젠 제된 된대现代新年宣布小店说初中教我世界勤劳的头天他们大家拉上大边点边对知道面边的人都说常说生说人不知马街巴拿也就也娃娘吧国内工作陪我说东年到我人不知马街巴拿也就개와 양바 매바양 고내 공동 배와쇼 사시 배제 조시 매도 리라 린지 인데 연방데 상제 신도 매데 도고나다 신라 제바쇼 카레라베 고르베 신감소 편단 대와 마류 종베 제레스원 딘진 야조 샤베 세덴 바도 덴조제 이당 고로라나 만데 니양다야 민자와 군도 양다 라만다 데메 최제 베라 로제 사다 람제 윤데 라조는 도제 창게 고반율도 조